Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD, pro physique athlete. Today I'm going to be sharing my full hypertrophy program that I've been using during my Worlds 22 prep. This is a full body, 4 days per week program set with moderate volumes. As you guys know, I won my WNBF pro card in men's physique in May, and I've been prepping for Worlds in LA in November. The feedback I got from judges earlier was that I need to bring up my back and my calves, so this program has been designed for a back and calf specialization. Know that this program is designed specifically for an advanced athlete, particularly me, so do take this with a grain of salt if you're thinking of applying this to your own programming. You will have to make changes to suit yourself. You'll also see that this program is very specialized for me late in contest prep. That is when I'm at a very low body fat percentage in a really steep caloric deficit. I'll explain some of the advanced considerations that come into play when we go over the program. We'll start off with the program walkthrough where I share everything you'll need to know to run the program yourself, including exercises, sets, and reps. After that, I'll talk about the weekly setup or how I prefer to lay out my workouts across the week. And finally, we'll talk about the pros and cons of my own 4-day full body program. All right, let's do our program walkthrough. So this is Dr. Swole's personal 4-day full body program. It's set with moderate volumes designed for an advanced athlete, that's me. And this is the program I was using during my Worlds 2022 prep. These are all modified full body workouts, so I've just named them day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. Here are the exercises, and there are the sets and reps. Down here we have the total number of sets for each workout so you have an idea of the day lengths. And down here we have our total muscle group weekly set volumes. You'll see that this is a moderate volume program with emphasis on the back and side delts, which have proportionally more volume. And this is because I am currently specializing back and calves. So keep this in mind if this is not particularly your goal. You can always modify the number of sets. Starting off with day 1, we kick it off with cable rows for the back, 5 sets of 8 to 12. Next we have barbell back extensions for the glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets of 6 to 10. After that, we have hack squats for the quads, 3 sets of 8 to 15, and you can superset these with hack squat calf raises for the calves. Here I use a mile rep set scheme. So you start off with one top set of 10 to 20 reps. After that, you use the same weight, but you do 7 more mini sets of 3 to 5 reps. Between all of these, I'll count down from 10, so take about 10 seconds rest. And the idea here is that you're always staying in that close to failure zone. So you're really getting efficient training out of every rep you do later on. This is a very time efficient way to train, and it works well for small muscle groups like the calves. There's no set and fast way to do this, but I've approximated this as about 5 straight sets. Then we have machine bench press for the chest, 3 sets of 6 to 15, and you'll see in this program that I swapped out most of my heavy free weight work for machine type work. This is because machines are going to be lower fatigue overall since there's more stabilization. And this is really important for me since fatigue is such a limiting factor now that I'm in a very steep deficit and in a low body fat percentage. Next, we have cable curls for the biceps, 2 sets of 8 to 12. Earlier this year, I was having a lot of problems with biceps tendinosis, so I've actually been doing all my biceps training with blood flow restriction and higher reps. I have made some modifications so this program will be more gen pop friendly. You can superset these curls with cable press downs on the cable stack, 3 sets of 8 to 15 for your triceps. Finally, we have machine lateral raises for the side delts, 4 sets of 12 to 20. Going on to day 2, we start off with wide grip neutral pull downs for the back, 3 sets of 8 to 15. And you'll see that I start off with each of my workouts with my back movement. This is because back is my priority. Typically, the first movement you put in a day gets the most priority since you're most fresh for that movement, and you'll be able to perform a little better in terms of the amount of weight lifted and the number of reps. Next, we have Smith machine single leg squats, which are kind of like standing lunges in the Smith machine, 3 sets of 8 to 15. These are a good lower fatigue variation. After that, we have leg curls for the hamstrings, 3 sets of 6 to 15. After that, we have machine overhead press, 3 sets of 6 to 12, machine flies to the chest, 3 sets of 12 to 20. Now, I do use failure training regularly, but I only go to failure on days 2 and day 4, and only on the last set for a muscle group for the day. You'll see that these days have slightly more isolation oriented and slightly more stable movements. These exercises are going to be better suited for going to failure. For example, machine flies are a bit better suited for going to failure than machine bench press. Then we have machine preacher curls for the biceps, 3 sets of 20 to 30. You'll see in my advanced programs that I use a bit more of these exotic rep ranges. As a beginner, I'd probably just stick to more bread and butter rep ranges like 6 to 12. Then we have cable upright rows for the side delts, but these also train the traps, 4 sets of 8 to 15. We wrap this workout up with leg press calf raises for the calves. Again, I'm using a mile rep setup scheme, so 1 top set of 8 to 15 reps followed by 7 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps. Going on to day 3, again, we start off with the back, so machine rows, and this is a chest supported row here, 5 sets of 10-15. I like chest supported rows because they take some of the stress off your lower back and make it a lower fatigue variation. In fact, I've recently just replaced my cable rows with another chest supported row this week. Note that you do miss out a bit on some of the lower back stimulus here. If you're a beginner, you might actually want that extra stimulus. So notice here that just because a program is advanced doesn't mean that it's better for you if you are a beginner athlete. If you're in your first few years of training, I'd recommend you check out my beginner programs that you can look up. Next, we have barbell back extension for the glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets of 6 to 10. You'll see that I repeat these throughout the week. I do progress these in a wave loading fashion, so I'll go 10, 8, 6 reps. And I will cycle this from workout to workouts, so I'm not doing the exact same thing every time. Next, we have Smith machine squats for the quads, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Notice here that my deadlift variation actually comes before my squat. You'll often see me put squat variations before my pulling movements because it's typically easier to do a pulling movement with fatigued quads rather than doing a squat with a fatigued back. However, I have arranged things in this way because I want priority on my back. Also, since I'm using low fatigue variations, the interference won't be as much of an issue. Next, we have incline machine bench press for the chest, 3 sets of 6 to 12. After that, we have cable reverse curls for the biceps, 2 sets of 10 to 15. After that, we have cable overhead extensions for the triceps, 2 sets of 12 to 20. And I've been supersetting these with cable leaning lateral raises for the side delts, 4 sets of 8 to 15. The idea of the lean here is that you take your supraspinatus out of the movement at the bottom and you really place focus more on the delts. I have been putting pauses on my delt work to really make sure I'm focusing all that stimulus on them. Next, we have seated calf raises for the calves. My reps again, 1 top set of 8 to 12 followed by 7 mini sets. You'll see that my workouts are really long. These workouts take about 2 hours. I could theoretically get a bit better fatigue distribution if I spread it over 5 days, but this works better into my lifestyle since I need to work 24-hour shifts as a doctor and I really have to be flexible. Lastly, we have day 4 and this is a slightly shorter workout. We start off with lat prayers to the back, 5 sets of 8 to 15. Lat prayers are like straight arm pull downs except you actually straighten out a bit at the top and this allows you to keep a more even tension curve. You could just do straight arm pull downs here. We follow this with Bulgarian split squats for the quads and glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets of 8 to 15. You'll see that I include quite a bit of single leg work for the legs in this program. This is because single leg work is a little bit less fatiguing since you're not using as much weight, and thus you get a little bit less axial loading or compressive forces on your spine. This is something I'm particularly doing to manage fatigue in contest prep. Next, we have leg extensions for the quads, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Following that, close grip dumbbell bench press for the triceps and chest, 3 sets of 6 to 10. I've been quite enjoying this as a variation of close grip bench press. It's making sure I really keep my elbows tucked to place more emphasis on the triceps. It's not written here, but I typically do a couple of drop sets with push-ups here after this. So note that there is a bit more to this program than what I've written here. Next, we have Bayesian curls for the biceps, 3 sets of 10 to 20. And this is where you're standing with your upper arm actually behind your body. Next, we have cable upright rows also for the side delts, 4 sets of 8 to 15. Notice that I like to have my bicep work actually come before my upright rows. Upright rows do involve your biceps to some degree, so I found that when my upright rows came before bicep training, my biceps would actually be fatigued and wouldn't perform quite as well. Finally, we have leg press calf raises again for the calves, and we're using a my rep setup scheme here, but with slightly different rep ranges, so top set of 12 to 20 reps followed by 7 mini sets of 4 to 6 reps. I'll again point out here that there's a lot of machine work in this program, and this is not necessarily something I would recommend for all athletes. This is because I'm really lean at this point and dealing with a lot of fatigue and a steep calorie deficit. That being said here, hopefully you're able to pick up some tips that you can apply to your own programming. If you guys want to optimize your diet and training for hypertrophy, check out my books on my website, askdrswole.com. These will really show you how to take your programming to the next level. Okay, now that you've seen the program, let's go over my preferred layout. Here it is. So we start off with day 1. Then we have rest day, day 2, rest, day 3, day 4, and rest. Spreading your days with full body is really simple. You basically just want to spread out your days as evenly as possible. Now, there are some specific considerations here when the days end up being a little bit asymmetric. As you see, since I'm training 4 days per week, there are going to be 2 days that come back to back. I have specifically made day 3 and day 4 go back to back, and you'll see that reflected in the fact that these workouts are slightly easier. Easier in the sense of total set volumes as well as my exercise selection. Now, the difference between workout difficulties isn't as much now that I'm really late in prep. This is because I've cut out a lot of my barbell movements for less fatiguing machine variations. Full body is really nice because you can easily shuffle the workouts around across the week, and this has been really important for me since I've still been working 24-hour call shifts while in prep. So I definitely have had to shuffle workouts around. Okay, let's go with the pros and cons of my 4-day full body workout program. Starting off with the pros. First of all, with a full body setup, this gives you maximum customizability. And I think this is a major pro in my circumstance. With high frequency full body setups, it's very easy to place more emphasis on certain muscle groups rather than others. You can do this by starting off with a pure full body setup where you train every muscle group every day and then subtract muscle groups from certain days as necessary. You can also distribute the volume by just adding more sets for a certain muscle group on each day. This has been really useful for me since I'm trying to place emphasis on my back particularly. You'll also see that it's very easy for me to just place back first in every workout to give it emphasis. Next, training full body gives you excellent flexibility. As you saw with the weekly setup, it's very easy to move workouts around throughout the week. Next, training full body allows you to have excellent fatigue distribution. You see this as the stress is spread out very evenly throughout the week. Since all workouts are basically full body, you don't have a really tough leg day and a much easier arm day. This particularly is important in an advanced athlete's case and especially more so late in contest prep or if you're in a steep caloric deficit. When you're in an aggressive fat loss phase, your body doesn't have very much reserve in terms of recovery resources. So in these kinds of scenarios, whether it be during a mini cut, contest prep phase, or just a really stressful phase in your life, it's important to try and maximize your fatigue distribution. Again, this more so only becomes an issue when you're an advanced athlete. Beginners just aren't able to lift enough to create that much fatigue where it becomes an issue. Particularly, I found that it's really helpful for me to be able to split up my leg training when late in contest prep. Next, this setup gives you high frequencies. Higher frequency isn't always necessarily better, but one way to see frequency is as a vehicle for productive volume. For me, a few muscle groups like my back, side delts, and calves are currently being trained with high volumes. So spreading out this volume over more days allows me to perform better on all the sets across the week when taken in aggregate. Some people might also find that certain muscle groups respond better to high frequencies. Okay, now let's talk about some of the cons of high frequency full body. First of all, this requires careful auto-regulation. This kind of setup is not best for beginners. Since you might be training the same muscle group back to back, you have to be able to roll with overlapping soreness. This means that you will have to modify workouts on the fly depending on how you're feeling. If you're still feeling beat up from the preceding workout, you might need to drop the weight, the reps, or even change the exercise. You will also need to be careful about going to failure. I'm careful not to train all the way to failure on every workout. If I did so, I probably would be sore all the time and might run into chronic overuse injuries. Next, training full body tends to give you longer workouts since you need to move around the gym more. You'll particularly see this in my program. I just have really long workouts and this is how I train. Just because of my lifestyle, I would rather have more rest days. But if you're training fewer muscle groups in one workout, for example, you could potentially stack more sets with one exercise and do less exercises in total. Finally, training full body high frequency means you get less of a pump with each workout. And this is just because you're doing fewer sets for each muscle group for every workout. But this is more of a personal preference thing. I still find that I get great pumps even if I just do say 3 sets for a muscle group in a day. But if you're someone who really likes that muscle splitting pump of doing lots of sets for every muscle group, then this might not be for you. Now, I will be sharing the full program as written in an Excel file in my Facebook group. So if you haven't already, find the link for the Facebook group in the description below. Join the group and you can download the program for free. If you want to see another advanced program, check out this advanced upper-lower split where I share some other examples of high-level programming strategies. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and we'll see you next time.